Peace. This is Firstborn, another Dark Christ memoir, yo. Yeah, I want to deal with Genesis 15, chapter 13, right quick. Story of Abraham and what God tells him concerning the future and him possessing the land that he was promised. Genesis chapter 15, verse 13. The scripture right before that speaks of the sun going down and Abraham fall into a great sleep where darkness overtakes him. And that scripture is basically just representing Abraham going within his subconscious where the Creator could speak to him clearly, where his conscience would not distract him. Verse 13 says, the Creator says to him, "Know with a surety that your descendants will dwell in a land that is not theirs, and that they shall be in bondage for 400 years. And I've always looked at that scripture and seen a parallel with the whole black people being enslaved here, us being here for 400 years, a parallel with that. When I look at the scriptures and look at the underpinning meaning of that scripture, there's some spiritual understanding in it. And that understanding is that whenever you look in the scriptures, there's always a deeper meaning than what is at the surface, and the Spirit has to reveal to you through study and devotion to the Creator what is it saying beneath the letters or in between the words, in between the letters. And one thing is this, that whenever it's talking about one of the patriarchs or a group of people in the scriptures going to a land or possessing a land or entering into a land, it's always talking about entering into a consciousness or entering into a certain type of desire, because consciousness determines your desires. If you have low consciousness, then your desires are selfish and self-centered. If you have high consciousness of the Creator, then your desires are to be like Him, which is to provide the life that the Creator provides to us to creation. So when it says that, know for a surety that your children will enter into a land that is not theirs, it's talking about know for a surety that future incarnations of souls with the same affinity for the Creator as your own will fall out of their consciousness, and they will fall into a selfish consciousness that it will be difficult for them to break free from, and that it says they will be in bondage for 400 years. Whenever you see numbers are always describing spiritual concepts. Okay, so when we look at the number 400, we have to look into what that means, and there's a lot of different interpretations. But I want to deal with the number 400 based upon the Hebrew letter that it correlates to, which is the Hebrew letter Tau, which is the final letter in the Hebrew alphabet, whereas Aleph, which is in English would be A, is the beginning, which represents the seed of potential of all life that we see, is hidden in the beginning. Tau is the final and complete manifestation of the Creator's will and creation as it reflects what He originally intended it to be. So what that scripture was saying is that future incarnations of those with the same affinity for the Creator as you will at some point fall out of their consciousness with the Creator and will be placed through an ordeal which will cause them to go through a type of crucifixion that will give rise to them becoming the true law, power, and grace manifestation of the Creator in the earth through them as a vessel. Okay? I relate that to the African American paradigm of slavery because it is very much about us being in a land that is not our own, including a consciousness that was not our original one. And it has to do with us going through a almost 400-year process of crucifixion and purification to bring out what was originally intended inside of us. Now, when I look at this, am I saying this only about African Americans? No, spirituality has nothing to do with race at all. But there are always manifestations in the microcosm of the earth that reflect what the spiritual desires to reveal inside of the souls of men. So when we look at this scripture, it is saying something. You can't, if you're black, be mad about slavery. If you're white, you can't be upset about slavery. It was a process that took place as a part of man's evolution to give him an opportunity to evolve into Elohim, or to evolve into the reflection of the very power and characteristics of the Creator. So when people be like, oh man, you know, the white man's so powerful, the black man's so weak, or why did the black, yo, this is a spiritual process. Okay? In the end, it's only about us returning to awareness that we are the Elohim in the earth. Even the problems that we think is whipping our ass, those problems are fueled by our fears. They're fueled by our ignorance. When you come out of ignorance, those problems no longer have the fuel to exist. And that's a part of something we don't understand. We think our consciousness is created by us, but when we're in an alien consciousness, or a consciousness that is not our own, because we are not designed to see the world through selfish consciousness and have selfish desires, then what happens is the external perception of things rules how we see the world and how we think our condition is. This 400-year process in the physical is representative of what should be going on in the spiritual. We are in a crucifixion process. The physical slavery that happened to slaves and African Americans was nothing compared to where we are in the final stages of this process, because now the external influences do their best to affect perception. So you have commercials, you have education seeping subtle ideas into your mind. But that just means we're at the last stages, because the scripture later says that also that nation will be judged that has held your descendants. That nation is not white people or black people or the Illuminati. It's talking, nation in the scripture talks about a collective of attitudes and spiritual forces. In this context, is talking about a collective of selfish, egotistical ideologies that man has bought into will be judged. And then it says you will come out of that land, you will come out of that low consciousness, that selfish desire, and you will leave out of it with great wealth or great possessions. And what is possessions? It's not 401k. It's not stock markets. It's not a good job. It's not a better car. It's not a perfect relationship with some kind of TV character. It's not talking about that. The great possessions is talking about the resurrection. If you look at the meaning of the word resurrection in the Gospels, the meaning of the word resurrection means recovery of truth. So the great wealth and possessions that we are to come out with is the recovery of the very truth of who we are, made as reflections or image, and made in the Creator's image and likeness, the reflections of His power, love, grace, and His full manifestation in the earth through us. That's the great possession. So this is your boy, Firstborn, another Dark Christ memoir, letting you know that when you see massive cycles of suffering, it's only a process giving us an opportunity to become the true law, power, and grace and manifestation of the Creator through us as a vessel. All right? Another Dark Christ memoir. Holla. Peace.